Hi, welcome to the Sifu Mimi Chan Show. Thanks for joining the conversation. Matt Fraction is known for his incredible work on titles like Hawkeye and Sex Criminals. But today we're diving into his new TV show on Apple Plus, Monarch: Legacy of Monsters. Matt shares his experiences filming in the vibrant streets of Tokyo, his love for Japanese culture, and some behind-the-scenes stories. Not to worry, there are no spoilers in this episode. Check out Monarch: Legacy of Monsters on Apple Plus for a fun series that not only features Godzilla, but a captivating story about the humans whose lives are affected by these creatures. You can also read his ongoing comic Adventure Man with Terry and Rachel Dodson. I'm so grateful to share in these conversations with friends like Matt and would like to continue on this journey. My favor, as usual, is to please help me do so by continuing to share this podcast with others, and feel free to rate and leave me feedback. If you would like to help keep this podcast going and become a patron of the show, you can visit my website or patreon.com/SifuMimiChan. Thank you so much for the support. I appreciate you. For comments or suggestions, reach out on social media at SifuMimiChan. Now, on with the show. Hello, Matt. Nice to see you.
Hey, Sifu Mimi. How are you?
I'm great. I'm pretty excited because I actually finally just got to see you, like in the flesh, in the 3D.
Yeah, momentarily, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's I haven't done a convention since the pandemic. So, and even I wasn't sort of at Rose City, but just sort of being around it peripherally was like, oh man, I missed this. So it was lovely to see you. Glad you were able to get out.
Oh my gosh, I was beside myself. Well, first of all, for our listeners, we were, at Rose City Comic Con who don't know, I was so fortunate to just ride the coattails of the Wonder Woman Historia team and just got to hang out at the Women's Visibility booth and just spent so much time with Kelly Sue and all of her friends. And by extension, we also ended up having this lovely, lovely time at your house. And that's where I got to see you since you weren't at the convention. So that was really fantastic. And I think I told Kelly Sue this and you when I saw you, but it was just like overwhelming to be there because there's so much amazing things to look at in your home.
Yes.
And I have to say
a little maximalist or style. Yeah.
No, but it's all like in its place. It's not like cluttery or overwhelming. It's just so much. And Andrea Shea and I were just like, oh my gosh, this is the coolest house. We're like, we want to go look around and explore and like a fun art, gallery or something. So
it's all Kelly Sue. I am nothing but clutter. She's the one who can figure out we'll take the one thing away and then it doesn't look like it's cluttered. I do it. It just looks like, oh, there's just a bunch of shit on some shelves. Wait, take that one thing away. And it's like, oh, now it's decor. So,
I'm sure it's a family thing because it was also nice to spend time with Tallulah this trip. And wow, from 4 or 5 years ago to now, she's just like a young woman now, and it's completely fascinating to see her develop.
Man, kids are the ultimate science experiment.
Well, yours are going great, by the way.
I didn't have brothers or sisters. Kelly Sue didn't have brothers or sisters, so I wasn't around kids
that age range. Yeah.
So just at all, right? So when we had Henry and it's sort of there was a thing those first few years of having to remind myself, all right, they're not dogs. Dogs kind of top out at what they're going to learn. It's like, all right, well, you sit, you can stay, you can kind of lay down. All right, great, we're done. We're done here. Kids just keep leveling. It was never not surprising that oh my God, now they're talking. Now they have thoughts. Now they're eating. What? So.
And especially yours, I have to say, I didn't get to spend enough time with Henry, but Tallulah, we got to hang out so much because she, of course, was our goddess, our Demeter, and just get to spend so much time. I have to say, I felt very fortunate. I got to kind of be a little bit of her escort sometimes because she had her contacts in and needed support. But oh my goodness. it's just so much fun. And like I said, didn't get to spend much time with him, but like she is definitively like, yes, this makes sense. This is Kelly Sue and Matt's child.
Yeah. No, I mean she is very much like Kel in the sort of extroverted performative thing, and he's very much like me, where like he can do it, but it is performative, and afterwards he's exhausted.
Yeah.
So like he's a guy that like will need, he always feels very guilty about it, but he's like, yeah, I'm gonna go chill. And he just goes through, you know what I mean? Like he just like needs, which I respect. Like you know what? It's good that he can advocate for himself and he recognizes what he's good at and what he's not. And like,
right. And our
like he does perform, like he does like improv and stuff, and he's incredible at it. But it's a thing. It's really interesting to see.
Yeah, I think you and I got a few moments. Like we didn't, like I said, there were so many people there, but it's funny because I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you and we both tend to consider ourselves kind of introverts, but we can be extroverted when need to be, but it is a lot of energy. And thank you for that, by the way, like allowing all of us to just come take over your home and just eat and be loud. And it was great. I mean, it was great.
Like that, I do better and things like that. Like just conventions are very, I mean, I love them and I love doing them. And like most of all, I, come away with this like profound sense of gratitude, and like it just, it not to sound corny, but like signing my name and shaking hands seems like the literal least I can do to the people that have afforded me my career. So like, I love doing it and but it's a thing. It's a real thing. Maybe it's just like live up in my head so much that to have to be out in the world is like overwhelming or something. But
no,
but yeah, I love doing it. But yeah, what the difference, like, me and Kel will come back like at 12 hours at a convention and she's wired and I'm exhausted,
Right. She's ready to host a party after 12 hours at a convention. And you're like, I need some quiet.
I'm going to bury myself under like 600 pounds of lead.
Because you probably have that in your backyard anyway, just in case you need it.
Probably. Yeah, I think we can make it happen.
One of the things you and I spoke about when we did see each other in September is we were very much hoping the writer's strike would be ended. We were concerned that the SAG-AFTRA and writers was going to go through December. Fortunately, you and I both were kind of wrong in that in terms of, well, I mean, SAG-AFTRA barely, but that it kind of ended sooner than we expected or anticipated.
I don't know if it's sort of being in Portland, but working in Los Angeles, like all I knew was what I was reading in trades. But yeah, I had a very pessimistic, I thought we were going to be going to the new year. So I'm thrilled to be back. I'm thrilled that everybody's back at work and the strikes are over.
Yes, 100%. And a big reason, of course, is we're able to talk about work too, not just be at work, but talk about and celebrate all of the things, right? There's so much work that happened in these last several months that from, stunt players to actors to writers to director, everybody just kind of was like, okay, we're not going to even get to promote or talk about our wonderful work that we've done. And, which leads us to your television series. Yes. Thank you. I try. But I was so excited for you. And actually, Chip and I spoke about it several months ago, back when he told me he visited you on set and was really disappointed because he didn't get to see Godzilla, because he was like, he kept looking up for it and it wasn't there. But congratulations, though, on Monarch Legacy of Monsters. Wow.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it was like almost 5 years to the day from when I first turned a document into Legendary to the show premiering. It was like my document was dated, I think November 20th, 2018, and we premiered November 17th or 18th, 2023. So it was like 5 years door to door, like just this massive thing. And then I thought like, oh, it's going to come out and I'm not going to be able to talk about it.
I know. That was, well, even the pre-talking about it, right? Because we knew there was production and everything, and we would just love to have been able to have way more conversations leading up to, but
you don't know when it's going to come out, and like it's such a VFX intensive show. I mean, we were still shooting a year ago. I left December 20th. So it'll almost be a year from when we wrapped to when the finale airs. So yeah, and that's the other thing is like we didn't know when it was going to air and what we, how we were, how it's the TV show is on Apple TV Plus, but Legendary and their MonsterVerse, their films, and there's a film coming, and we weren't sure where everything was going to land and the timing of it. So anyway, it's all worked out for the best. And now, yeah, look at that! Holy crap, we made a Godzilla show.
You did. You did make a Godzilla
Or a show with
show.
Godzilla, I should say.
This is true. A show with Godzilla, which our listeners who don't know, it's so much fun to turn on a show and get to see my friends' names like developed by and written by, and just it is so much fun to see. Of course, you and I are our mutual pal Rocco. When his stuff hits screen, we're always excited. But I was so thrilled when I heard that this was happening, and of course, I didn't know in 2018 it was happening, but even like you said, the long production process and just being able to kind of see it come out. And I have gotten to see the show. I'm super excited. I actually watched the most recent episode today. Okay. Yeah. Right. And so much fun, so much to talk about. And I guess because I know you, of course, but it's not like we talk every week or anything. And I'm like, oh, of course, Matt loves Godzilla and all things, famous monsters. But like seeing the very large skeleton in your home, I was looking for the Godzilla, to be honest.
They're mostly down here. They're mostly like.
Yes.
And actually, I kept my badge from Toho Studios.
Okay.
Tokyo, we visited Toho, and I kept my visitor badge.
Nice.
Yeah, most of the Godzilla stuff has located down here over the last couple.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, it's very.
It's also one of those things too, though, that like I mean, I have a bad. It's really easy for me to clutter stuff up, right? Like the collections or things. So like, there's a million Godzilla things. So I try to pump those brakes because otherwise it would just be overwhelming,
Understood. And to be fair, earlier you were like, oh my gosh, you're wearing a great shirt. And I was like so proud that I own a shirt that have Godzilla, because I'm not even like a mega, oh my gosh, like everything Godzilla. And right. I was gifted this at San Diego Comic-Con from the Famous Monsters booth. And awesome. They were like, which shirt do you want? I was like, I want that one. And it just really spoke to me. That's and awesome. So I was really happy. And I was so excited to be able to wear it today for this podcast.
Yeah.
How random is that and rare? But
we didn't get to do a red carpet because the actors were still on strike, and that super sucked because I found out the red carpet would have been at Mann's Chinese Theater, which problematic iconography aside is such a historical. It's like where Star Wars had its premiere.
Yeah.
I was bummed, but we did a screening at in Century City. Which is where they shot, Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. So that's pretty cool. Okay. But afterwards, me and Chris Black, my co-creator on the show, and Matt Shackman, the director of our first 2 episodes, we signed like posters, and everybody in the line had Godzilla shirts, but every shirt was different. I did not see a single repeated shirt. So like cool? All praise be to Toho. They've got the merch game on lock.
Yeah, it's super cool because I think, like I said, it's not that, I remember being young and growing up and definitely seeing it and watching it and enjoying it. It's not like I was this like avid, I know everything about Godzilla or anything, but it's super appealing. Like the whole, the visual, and like you said, the shirts. And so there's all these other famous monster shirts, but I was like, no, I want the Godzilla one with the red. Yeah, it was really cool. So, okay, well, talk to me about this, 2018, you turned this in, but that means it was with you for so much longer. Like, did you always know this?
No, I Kelly Sue and I started to work with Legendary in 2018, and we were working on developing some of our books into shows, and Legendary has a lot of toys in their toy box, and I think I knew that they had been poking around the idea of doing something like this, And I asked about it like literally at the meeting that would lead to us signing our deal, and they were like, "Really?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, no, that's I got it, I got it. Like, yeah. Let me take a swing at it." And I did, and that got us a little bit down the road, and then Chris Black came on board in 2019, 2020, and he's has such experience at writing. He has been a television writer. His whole career is a medium he understands
Mhm.
innately, and he and I got on like a house on fire and sort of created the thing that became the thing. But it was
Yeah.
yeah, it was just this. I think just as being a fan, not just of the world, but of the legendary movies. There was just at the time, the Gareth Edwards Godzilla 2014 movie had come out, and Kong Skull Island had come out, and Kong Skull Island takes place in 1973.
Hmm.
Um, and you get little glimpses of things in like the credits of Godzilla,
Right.
like from 1954 and stuff like that. Like we built our third episode is built around like four shots from the opening titles of Godzilla. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? Like it's that kind of. So there were big sort of nodal points on the timeline, but no connective. How do they go from this to this? How do they go from this to this? And setting a show there and sort of explaining the mystery of Monarch's highs and lows felt like really rich, fun TV territory. And then plugging our characters into it and sort of making it this generational story was like, right, it's television. Great.
Yeah. What I really like about the show so far is that, again, because it's like I don't know that I don't know that I could tell the synopsis of an actual Godzilla movie other than, we know the Godzilla shows up and
Yeah, yeah,
steps on
yeah,
a
yeah.
bunch of buildings, and I don't know that I could kind of go through, but what it feels like you said, is these filling of the gaps, but almost like a behind the scenes
Right,
of what's actually happening to the people in the city versus like the destruction of the
right.
buildings. Like it's so
Yeah.
much there. It's kind of interesting because they're not secondary characters. I don't want to say that, but it's kind of like, oh yeah, there's
Well,
this
sure,
stuff
but
that's
but yeah,
happening, but it's
yeah,
about the
yeah.
people. And
Yeah. But
um
that's the difference, right? But like movies are spectacle, right? Movies, you buy tickets, you leave your house, you go watch them in an auditorium with a big bunch of people on a huge
yeah.
screen. TV's a thing you invite in every week. It's a thing you bring
Mhm.
into your home, and to do that, there have to be people. So our approach was never like let's make scaled down movies because that would be terrible. But we wanted to, it was sort of the films, the cameras are all up here so you can see the giant monsters and the fighting. And our show, it's all on the ground looking up. You're with the people, and so
Mhm.
it's a chance to tell, like, if this is kind of simple, maybe a little facile sort of metaphors, like if the movies are 9/11, like the show is 9/12. Like if we didn't want to do a show about the buildings getting knocked down, we wanted to do a
Mhm.
show about the people getting up
Yeah.
after, and like what's it like the first time you have to take your shoes off at the airport, it and then that we pre-production kind of occurred alongside the pandemic. It made it sort of really timely, like, oh, the
Yeah.
world has really changed right now and everything's different, and what does that mean for us? And it's scary and intense. And so it was like, oh, right, this is a good world to tell human stories in,
Yeah. I think that's what's fascinating about it too, is like you said, you hear, okay, Monarch, and that's going to be Godzilla. You're not expecting these human stories
right,
aspect of it. And how fun is it to have Kurt and Wyatt Russell kind of like
right.
playing these roles? And I love the back and forth in time and being able to see kind of the historical relationships and everything. But I'm sure it was fun for them as well.
Yeah, yeah, not to, and they're actually getting on airplanes in Brazil. They've just done a big event at the CCXP in Sao Paulo.
Okay.
But yeah, I think the way they had told us that like they had been offered father and son parts before, but it was never really interesting. But the idea of building the same character
Yeah.
was interesting, and that was, and they worked, they would show up during each other's days and watch them film. They would
Nice.
run scenes together. They built this character really intensely together. It was really cool to see.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so much fun. And I mean, I love, of course, that there's always an opportunity to kind of bring it back to its core with Japan and having Japanese actors and having the language even being represented so frequently. As somebody who I often say is like a lazy person, and when it comes to reading subtitles, I always at the end of the day appreciate it more, and I'm always happier when there's native language spoken in films, even though I say I'm lazy and I don't want to read.
Right.
I'm kind of a stickler for that. And so that was really great because it really kind of gives you this feel for, kind of the origins of and like that culture, because it's very cultural.
Yeah, 100%. It felt like disingenuous to not observe and obey that, and so, not only did we, we a lot of Japanese actors in our cast, but like we shot in Tokyo for 2 weeks, worked intensely with Toho, and it's a show for Apple TV's global division, so we wanted to be a global show, and Godzilla starts in Japan, as far as I'm concerned.
Agree.
My thing just dinged. Sorry about that.
That these devices do such things, but in terms of Tokyo, I literally just got back from Tokyo as well. Hey. Ironically, I know. I'm like, man, I couldn't be talking to Matt at a better time. I just got back from Japan and Tokyo and Kyoto and a few other places, and got my Godzilla shirt. I'm like ready for you. And I've actually watched the show. I'm so excited.
Did you go to the palace in Kyoto?
The Imperial?
Yeah, with the nightingale floors and the skinny hallways.
So I didn't go in to the. Yeah, I wasn't able to find. I went to like a lot of the shrines and things like that, but I didn't get to go in. But yeah, it's such a cool city, so much to see. I want to go back for sure and spend more time.
Floorboards in the castle that are called nightingale floors, and there's a lot of bounce and give. So when you walk, it makes this like woo, so that no one could sneak up.
Okay, no ninjas.
And all the hallways are very narrow to prevent full sword swing.
Yeah.
So like all these kind of crazy, like, oh my God, that's so great.
Very well thought out. So
you can't swing your sword all the way. Oh, that's great. Oh.
That's brilliant. It makes me rethink the design of my houses now.
Yeah. No, it was amazing. Like shooting in Tokyo was amazing. It was huge. And, like you're in a Tokyo neighborhood with, 200, Japanese extras. And it's like the one international, like, direction. Like, hey, Godzilla's coming. They knew how to play it. It was great. Suddenly people are running to a Godzilla bunker. It's like, we're in Japan and people are running from Godzilla. It's great.
So did you get any downtime while you were there to explore?
Oh, I had a morning. I had like 4
morning.
Hours. Yeah. Well, because we shot 3 or 4 days, and then we switched to shooting nights, and we were shooting nights the whole rest of the time we were there.
Yes.
So which actually kind of helped the jet lag somehow. But yeah, no, it was we lost half a day. It's the only time we lost shooting, which is really saying something because COVID was still happening and all that. But we lost half a day to a typhoon.
Oh.
Because we were there and it was sheets of rain going entirely perpendicular. So, so I guess I had an evening where I sat under an awning and watched a typhoon roll through. But
okay.
But no, I mean,
it
was all
downtime, and that's not visiting time.
But we shot all over, and there were scouts and exploration, and so I got to really go around those neighborhoods, and we didn't shoot in Shinjuku and Harajuku. It was we shot places that you don't normally see.
Yes.
When you go to Tokyo, and it was a thing that like our Tokyo crew really appreciated. Like they're like, I can't believe you're shooting here. Like this is. No one, Americans never shoot here. This is great,
Leave it to Matt. That does not surprise me at all. Well, it's kind of like how many times do we need to see the crossing, right? Like we in the films, right? We've seen that, and it's always beautiful, and it's always great, and it's always well done. But I think it is far more interesting, like you said, for cast crew, but also from a viewer standpoint. Those are the things we won't notice but very much leads to the authenticity of the moment in the film. Like it's great if it's actually not noticed, right? Because then it's seamless and you don't even realize that's what's happening. But then the whole behind the scenes is a lot of fun. So
one of our crew like told me like, yeah, like, do you know what this alley is? We're shooting this kind of alley, and I'm like, no,
yeah.
it looks great, but no. And he's, well, it's where the black market started during the occupation, and then when the Americans left, they handed the keys over to what would become the Yakuza. So it was like, it
Oh,
would be like the equivalent of shooting in like on Mott Street in Little Italy. Like it was such a like for
yeah.
crime buffs. It was like we were shooting in like, oh, this is where the modern Yakuza was born, in this alley,
Wow.
and so it's just all this kind of textural stuff that I've got to watch it with Japanese friends, and they will react when they see it.
Okay.
Like you'll hear like
Because they
yeah,
know.
they know like, oh wow, yeah, that's crazy that you're shooting. You know what I mean? Like it's been really cool. It was really, really fun.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I feel like you've just described the start of your next TV series, or a little at least a short story or something.
Yeah, something. Yeah.
I think you could totally work something out for that. But uh I'm really into food and all of that. And was there anything you ate that you love there? Did you get to have local food? And
Our
because I gained 5 pounds on my
oh
Asia trip,
sure,
just to let
sure,
everybody
sure.
know.
Well, like sort of, we Georgina Pope, who was our Tokyo fixer, like she's this
Hmm.
kind of empress of American filming in Japan,
Okay.
and she's knows everybody. She's been there for 30 years. She did it, and is this sort of fixture in the film industry over there. Took us to this amazing restaurant underneath the tower,
Hmm.
and that was astonishing. And it was, 7 courses, and each one more
Hmm.
elegant so there was like that kind of high end,
Right. Like a kaiseki, like a very, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But then also like just eating, and just Japanese street food is the best.
Right.
I had the best tofu I ever had in my entire life at a little diner under a stairwell in a subway station, and even like the 7-Eleven, there's this like it's like this bread. It's like a slice of like brioche, not even brioche, but like kind of like thick
Hmm.
bread,
Hmm.
like condensed milk and sugar.
Yes, like the dessert toasts they make. Yeah.
Yeah, dessert toast. Yeah. And she's like, oh yeah, no, this is like crazy popular. This is like,
Hmm.
and I was like, what? It's 7-Eleven food. How? And I ate it. I was like, oh my God, this is
Different
incredible.
7-Eleven. Yeah.
Only could find it one other time. Every
Oh.
other time, went everywhere we went. I stopped in every 7-Eleven I found, and there was always a perfectly empty. Like it was clearly the most contested, sought after. So like high and low cuisine, both were enjoyed.
That's the thing. People ask me, because I went to different parts of Asia and everything, but I was like, oh man, Japan, it just, everyone is so polite and nice, but the place is so clean and you feel so safe. It's like this, it feels like a not real
Another
place.
planet. It's another planet.
It's
It really is
another
another planet.
planet. And I was like, okay, this may be too much information for our listeners, but I cannot describe to you how clean the bathrooms are and how they know how to do toilets, and America's failing. I just don't know how to explain to people that
Yeah.
it's just like, wow. And it just shows how clean you are. Like every part of the culture is clean. Like
Well,
just,
yeah, a Japanese friend of mine trying to explain like Japanese culture is like, listen, it's an island. It's a really small island. We couldn't build out, so we had to build up. And meanwhile, the kind of cultural, interpersonal behavior was all predicated on like, what do you want? How can I help you so I don't kill you with my sword? There's all this sort of like politeness came from this thing of like, there's nowhere to go. We're on top of each other. How
mhm.
can we get through this without killing each other?
Right,
And it's
right.
sort of like, oh, right. Yeah, no, it's this very, even to the point of like the sidewalks having braille-ish, I know this is not really braille, but like
Hmm.
having textures for blind and
Or
hard of seeing
yeah.
people to be able to follow the sidewalks. It's just like, yeah, it's just there's such a granular difference of it's just it really is a different planet. I love it.
Agree. I love it too. And I feel like this is the part where we should get to learn from one another and like adapt certain things. And we noticed there was no trash cans.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, is that
trash.
right?
Yeah.
Well, I asked, so in Kyoto, I had asked because, I hired a guide that could really give us all the info about the temples, because I don't like to just walk around and see. I want to hear all the stories like what you were sharing. And he said, oh, right. No, they got rid of all the trash cans also because someone put a bomb in it once, and they're like, so never again. We just won't have that anymore. That option has been taken away.
The UK similar.
Yeah, right. And so it's like, oh, you mean you learn from when there's tragedy and mistakes or like bad things happen. I see. Okay.
And you keep, somebody explained to me like, no, it all just goes in your pockets. And then at the end of the day.
And then you take your own trash home, right? Like that makes sense. Oh, okay. We should take care of our own trash.
The only time I got like, it's hard to even, it's a very specific kind of dirty look. But the only time I got like I don't really mean a dirty look, but the only time I got a dirty look was when I had grabbed something at a coffee shop and was eating while I was walking.
Oh yeah, that's a big.
It was the only time I got like.
What is he doing?
Got gaijin eyes.
Gaijin. Foreigner.
And just being tall and being tall was a thing. I also got it was a like on the subway the hand rests
was below you. You were doing like
it came to like it came to like here instead of so it was just that sort of everything was like a quarter of an inch. I was very clumsy. Everything was kind of negotiated at a width I'm not used to. So
you're like Godzilla in your way.
I felt like Godzilla not bumping into it. It was just so meaningful to go there and like to go to Toho and to be toured around and like this is where they filmed Seven Samurai. This is where they filmed Godzilla. Yes. That field over there is where they shot the battles in Redbeard, and like it's just incredible. All of it was amazing. And
was it difficult? And because I don't really know, but like to get permission to do the Godzilla and say, hey, can we take this story forward, or is it a thing where you need to get permission? How does that?
Yeah, I mean, Toho are active creative participants in this process, and they had a relationship with Legendary already because of the films. We were kind of piggybacking on that.
Okay,
but they were very much a part of it. They have and they think about Godzilla and Ghidorah, they call them characters. Like they're not monsters, they're not creatures. These are characters, and like there's a subtle kind of shift in thinking that comes like that. Like they have wants and they have needs and they have drives, and like we don't understand what those are. We may never understand what those are, but they do. They're not just hurricanes with faces. And that was great. But they have. I mean, whether it's sort of the technical kind of mythos stuff or the of a more kind of holistic kind of, hey, we've been doing this for 70 years and it works, Yeah. Brian Bendis tells a story about being involved in one of the kind of various Spider-Man things. I don't remember if it was one of the films or with the musical, what it was, but like being in a meeting and somebody says, does it have to be a spider? And being like, yeah, no, this is why it's worked since 1961. Like this is what, no, don't change the part that works.
Right. And thankfully, the people who are in the room that are there to protect such things are there. But
and I don't know that I know they would never say this. This is pure conjecture on my part, but I suspect that, there's some, if you look at the 97 Godzilla film, the American version, like it didn't have to, they changed the spider, right? There were enough fundamental changes in that it wasn't really Godzilla. Mm-hmm. It was Godzilla sort of in name only. And I think Toho is very protective of it as not just as a brand, but like there's an underlying logic and mythos to this, and here's how it works. And that it was really great to be able to for them to share that with us.
What I've gotten from the TV show, and like I said, this is probably the deepest dive into any of the Godzilla characters and things, but like, I love that so Monarch, right? You're immediately just like hearing the title, like you're thinking, okay, these are the monsters or whatever, and then it's like kind of the name of the org, but it's kind of interesting to watch the humans and the quote unquote monsters and kind of start to wonder who are the monsters in this.
Right,
And like,
right.
especially the beach scene.
Yeah.
It was really well done in terms of like, yes, we've seen things where we're doing wrong by nature or anything like that. Like, of course, that's kind of a universal theme that we've seen, but like, I thought it was just so well done. I mean, and she was just so great, and just
Mari Yamamoto is
yes. I mean, she was,
so incredible.
And you really you felt compassion, right, for what's supposed to be like the bad in this. And this is like any good film or TV show, as you being an aficionado in such things, it's like any character that is not inherently, like, you can't tell, are they the bad guy that does good things, or are they the good guy that does bad things, right? Like, if there's that kind of dynamic, it's always more interesting to watch. So I've kind of interesting, like the name of the show, it's like, who is it really describing?
Right. No, I think that's, I think that's very much by design. And I think it's you don't need to know anything about the movies if you've never seen it. It's designed, you are in the same position our characters are in. You're going to learn everything as they learn it, because it's about these characters learning all the questions that somebody might have, right? All you have to know is that Godzilla is real, right? It's funny. I for no discernible reason, like last night watched this Doctor Who from 1975 called like The Genesis of the Daleks, and the story is the Doctor goes back to the planet Skaro that the Daleks come from before they've been created, and he's been kind of tasked, like his mission is basically go back in time and kill baby Hitler. Like stop the Daleks before,
right?
But then he realizes that to do that would be like to be committing a genocide, and what right does he have? And like, even though they're going to wage war for 1,000,000 years, what if after that, the second 1,000,000 years, they wage peace and are forces of justice and fairness, and like so he ends up not being able to do it. He fails, right? He can't bring himself to undo the Dalek. But it struck me as like, oh, that's very much at the root of our third episode, that moment with this Japanese woman who has seen the destruction that mankind can unleash on the world, and it's one of my favorite moments in any of our episodes, where everybody shows up on that beach with one kind of motive and leaves the beach with different ones when they actually see this thing. We talked a lot in the writing of the season about the sublime, and that sort of the real definition of the word sublime isn't just incredible and beautiful, but scary. Like, you're not supposed to look at God. It'll drive you crazy. That's sort of like, oh, right. Miracles are beautiful and terrifying. And that's sort of complexity in keeping that stuff, and sort of, and I love it too, when characters do things that maybe they don't even understand. I just didn't have a moment of like, I thought I was this and suddenly I was that, and what does that mean, and all that kind of stuff. So that's sort of having that moment of bringing these scientists to the cusp of seeing this miraculous, destructive, terrifying miracle, and then realize, oh God, what are we doing? That was really, I think that episode is a lot of fun, and it was just very funny to see it sort of like, oh, of course, Doctor Who did it 45 years ago or whatever, 60 years ago.
Well, but it just because something's been done, it doesn't.
No, right. It was just funny. You're
like, oh, and I just watched that. But and also I think it's also hard to do something well in general, right? And so the fact that it's done well is really fantastic. So again, congrats. And you and I had spoken, I think off air, or I can't recall now, before you were allowed to even talk about the project and how different it was coming from your comics background. And I know you've written like, 'cause I know we talked about Hawkeye and everything, and oh, it's Christmas time again, by the way. So
It
that
is,
means
yeah,
everybody,
yeah.
it's Hawkeye time again.
Yeah, it's Hawkeye season.
It's Hawkeye season, and we kind of talked about where being in the writers' room is radically different than
Mhm.
even comics collaboration. And just like I know that you have experience, but I feel like this one's pretty big,
Mhm.
and your involvement and everything. How did that feel for you? Like kind of that difference where was the jump very easy? Did you enjoy it more or less, or just different animals?
Definitely different animals, and I certainly enjoyed it. There were also times where it was definitely a learning curve. It's a thing that I do alone in my head in a room by myself whenever I like or can. So kind of then having to do it out loud in real time in front of other people, to where it sort of functions like a meritocracy, was like, there would be times where we get stuck on something, and I would find myself being frustrated because like, fuck, just go write. I just want to go write it.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, just spoke to my own kind of a naivete or whatever. But no, I mean, at its best, it is very much like a comics collaboration, and you come in with one thing, and someone makes it another thing and another thing, and then it's bigger and better than what you would have come up with on your own. You know, and we had a tremendous room. We just had a murderer's row of talented people that everybody made everything better than it would have been had it been produced by one person alone in a room writing in their own head.
Yeah. And that isn't always the experience. So you
Yeah,
must feel
I've
grateful
been
for
very
that.
lucky. I've been very, very lucky in my room experiences to date.
Yeah.
And also as another kind of moment with, Chris, and his experience and gifts is sort of like he working as the kind of ringleader in that room and sort of guiding things and making these decisions. And there's a real art to that too, of you got 8 really opinionated writers throwing ideas out at a million miles a second. There's somebody there who's got to catch them,
Yes.
and put it, and so that was really, really something to watch kind of happen in real time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It seems like in theory, when done well with the right people, that it could be just a lot of fun. And at the end of it, it's magic. And
Yeah.
is I'm imagining you saw dailies, and I'm imagining
Uh-huh.
you've been seeing lots of
I was,
edits
yeah,
and
I was on set for 100 and I was on set for 100 of our 106 days or 109
wow.
days. I don't remember what it was. I missed the Hawaii stuff at the end. The Hawaii things were at the very end, but it was sort of like the idea of wrapping in Vancouver, flying to Hawaii,
And then back.
and then getting my ass kicked for 36 hours and then flying home. It's like, I'm
Yeah.
just going to get right to Christmas break. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
That makes
yeah. So I
sense.
was there, and then yeah, part of all the edits, and then the strike happened. So almost all the episodes were finished during the strike.
Mm.
So I coming out of the strike was like I was seeing many of these episodes for the first time, because it's sort of like, even though we were there, and
Okay.
it was stuff, but then I didn't see final effects. And Leo Ross did our music, and he's so incredible, and the soundtrack is so amazing. And I'm not someone that's particularly drawn to film music.
Mm.
I don't have a lot of soundtracks. I don't listen to a lot of soundtrack music.
Yeah.
But to see what it added to this stuff was really cool.
Yeah.
Leo is so good. It just adds this dimension to the show. It's really wonderful.
Hmm.
But yeah, so it was kind of really, to be a part of the editing and the VFX and everything was
Yeah.
it's a big job. It's a really big job.
Did you enjoy it?
Oh yeah, yeah, I loved it. Yeah,
So
yeah,
gonna continue doing
loved it.
this.
Yeah, I hope so. Fingers
Yeah.
crossed, right?
Yes. Fingers
Um,
crossed.
that was the thing, is like being in Vancouver and sort of being on set all day and being a part of all these different, we shot this 10 episode season, but we shot in kind of staggered. So like there was, I think there was like basically roughly like it's 3 weeks of shooting per block. And the first week they're just, block 1 and 2 was shooting, or episodes 1 and 2 are shooting in block 1. Then in that second week, episodes 3 and 4 started shooting. right? And then so then there were two shows shooting at the same time. In fact, when I went over when Julian Holmes, our director for episodes 3 and 4, when he was wrapping, I went over to his set to kind of hang out the last few days. And the crew over there was like, "Oh, Matt, you're back. Hey, where you been? How's it going?" I was like, "Guys, I've been right next door making the other show." Like it's just such, it showed up and there was, almost 500 people on the payroll. Like it was an insane amount
Wow, yeah.
but we were shooting all at the same time. So this is kind of
Right.
cascading. So there's always something to do. And there's always, stuff was in pre, stuff was shooting, stuff was prepping, stuff was in post. We were location scouting. We were working on scripts. We were doing this with casting and getting VFX and doing all this stuff, all of it, and it was like, I never slept better.
Oh,
It was like, finally, this is the job that has enough stuff that my brain is tired at night and I could just go to sleep.
Yes, because you and I have spoken about this. Like sleeping can be challenging for us. So that's
it was, but I
fantastic to
slept
hear.
great. I remembered everybody's names. It was just sort of like, oh, whenever I would get twitchy, whenever I get stuck, I would just get up and take a walk.
Right.
And find somebody. Oh, hey, I need three things, and this, you know what I mean. And just there was never something not to do. It was just a really great job for someone with ADHD. Like there's just a million different things. You get bored with one, there's 6 other things to go check out.
Oh my gosh! And so, yeah, I mean, we still have time. We still have time. We got like 10 more minutes to chat, but like it feels like it's been so involved. And of course, that's kind of wrapped. And we had the writer's strike, and then you kind of had to take a break. But during that time, were you still working on like comics, doing other things creatively? What should we be looking for next? But also, what is on the horizon, and what are your plans?
My friend Brian Bendis, when his show Powers was in production, told me about sort of, he was on set and working, but also sitting at the Video Village tent where the monitors are with his laptop open, writing, Ultimate Spider-Man. And I think that was good for Brian, but for me, I was just like, I don't know if this is ever going to happen again. And the more I know and the more I do and the more I learn, the more likely it happening again is. So, I had a bunch of kind of stuff lined up, but once the show really got going, I kind of cut my collaborators loose and was like, you know what, maybe we can do it later, but I got to go do this thing. And I don't know how much time it's going to eat up, which is good because it ate up everything. The only ongoing comic I've got is Adventure Man comes back. And in fact, FOC is tomorrow, December 4th, with Terry and Rachel Dodson, and new issue will be out by the end of December. So Adventure Man is kind of picking up again, but like that's kind of the only comic thing. I've got a bunch of stuff that I'm like developing and sort of noodling on, but I'm hesitant to commit until can commit to somebody, because like if I'm the writer and I don't write a script, my artist doesn't draw, my artist doesn't get paid. My collaborators don't pay their bills, and so it's like, all right, I don't want to commit to people until I can commit to them. But like during the strike, mostly what I did, I thought I was going to get all this writing done, but it really, I hadn't been planning on being gone for 6 months during shooting.
Right.
So basically the strike was just me doing all the stuff that I missed during filming, like all the stuff around the house, like I clean out a storage unit and clean the garage and, patch,
polish the skeleton.
Yeah, exactly. Like painted furniture and, with that card catalog in the one room with the little drawers, like painted that and, patched furniture and drywall and all that kind of, I sort of did a lot of like house stuff for the strike.
Right.
And it was summer. It was nice to get to hang out with the kids,
Yes, I'm so sure. No, I think it's a lot. I don't know, like you describing, and Bendis, and he owes me a chat. Like we've been playing email tag, and we've been back, and then even in Portland, we actually got to be in the booth together, so that was nice. That was where we got to catch up, but we didn't get to podcast or anything because we were working the booth, right? We were busy, and we just kept passing each other, and I can't even imagine being on set, working on one thing, and then writing, comics at the same time. I multitask in a lot of facets, but anything that requires any sort of creativity or attention or like super detailed things. There's no way I could do two things at once. So I'm very interested to hear how he's able to do that.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, we were on, we took our families on a vacation to Hawaii once, and it was the night of the Fukushima earthquake. So there's this horrible news story breaking around the world, but there was a tsunami warning issued, and it would have been for the coast that we were on, but it was night. So they couldn't tell what the water was going to be. And it was like, well, it's going to show up around 6 a.m. and it'll be anywhere between 4 inches and 4 feet. Right. And we were far enough inland and uphill that we were outside of the evacuation zone, but we would have been helping people up. You know what I mean? We would have been the people helping people up the hill, right?
Oh my gosh.
And we're sitting and they put every hour on the hour a tsunami siren, which is one of the most terrifying sounds I've ever heard. It's like a tornado drill times 1,000. Just and it would go off every hour on the hour. And we're sitting there talking, and I'm like, I'm going in and I'm checking on the kids and checking on the news and looking at the web, and Brian's like, the whole time we're just sitting out like on this like patio, like talking, but like Brian's like, oh my God, it's so fucked. What did they say? The news is what? Oh, that's crazy. And I hear like he's typing the whole time. He's typing like, and like, but like he wrote the death of Peter Parker. He wrote that issue that like not that whole issue, but like he wrote that night
while that was happening,
the emotional climax of his Ultimate Spider-Man run, like one of the most heartbreaking, devastating, astonishing books he's ever written. But just like, oh my, it was like, oh, and as I was staying awake just to see how bad the tsunami was going to be, we both were, but he just the whole time was like, tap, 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 tap. It was just like, wow, it's someone who's just made different, Very
different. That's like I said, that's not me. I can't. Yeah. It would be like
I got jack shit.
When you go back to read it, it wouldn't even make sense.
Yeah.
It would be what you were saying. I would end up like basically typing what you're saying. That's what would happen. It'd be a transcript of Matt's conversation.
But there was something, there was a lot of writing and rewriting happening through production, and I think it was all kind of a piece helped, that it was all the same. If I was answering questions about set, or if Chris and I were doing this, or talking to an actor about that, or approving designs or whatever, like, or doing a rewrite on a scene, it was all the same thing.
The world. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that helped, but whereas the idea of going from like Godzilla to Adventure Man to Godzilla to like that would have, that toggling would have broken my head.
Yeah. I will definitely be asking Brian about this.
Yeah.
Like, please share. How does your brain work?
Yeah. It's his kind of miraculous superpower is that's how it works. I mean, did that issue have such emotional urgency? I want, you know what I mean? Some of it is just sort of like,
wow.
Who knows? Right.
Who knows? Yeah. It's just very different.
Just to realize like your hands haven't stopped moving the whole night. I'm going to the same 4 websites and then pacing around the house, making sure everybody's asleep and everybody's safe. And looking at this field of black.
Right. Because you could determine probably by looking at it. Right. I know I would be the same way. Like, well, is it moving? Is the ocean moving? What's happening?
I can hear. Yes. And meanwhile, Brian's writing, this is one of the best issues I think he ever wrote.
Maybe he needs that. He needs to be like having
I think there's
natural catastrophe happening or whatever, and all the families at peril. And
he's got 4 kids, so I mean, there's something to be said for that,
Right. He's almost constantly in a state of lots going on.
Yeah. The Bendis family circus is definitely.
They roll strong when they come through, man. They roll strong.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Well, do you miss it? Because I know that, and it's been a million years since I worked on set or I've been on a TV show or anything like that. But it was kind of like you're so entrenched and you're in that world, and then when you're gone, sometimes it's a sense of release. Like, thank God I'm out of that. I'm gone. I don't have to take that. You're so inundated, but then part of you kind of misses being in it. So what is that like for you?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think, part of the biggest thing for me was like it was like I said, I wasn't supposed to be gone for 6 months.
Right.
So it was really hard to be gone from my family, and to not know for sure that it was, like I think I can come home here, I think I can come home there, and so it was really hard being away. But part of this like sort of thing I struggled with was like it was really hard to be away from home and to be away from my family and my kids, but at the same time, I was having a great time. As hard as it was, as exhausting as it was, as much work and stress and all that
Yeah.
stuff, like it was, so I dealt with that kind of like, I know that both things can be true, but the fact that I hate being away, but I really love what I'm being away for makes me feel guilty.
Yeah, of course. 100%.
But yeah, no, and like we had an amazing crew. I just loved the crew. We had just the most incredible people, and it was great. And it was, and my kind of like takeaway is like running a show is like fighting a bear every single day, but every day it's a different bear. So just when you think you
Mhm.
got it figured out, now there's, so yeah, it was yeah, it was really hard to be away. It was really hard to miss out on 6 months of like my family, but like I had a great time doing what I was doing.
Yeah. And the
And I think that was, yeah,
diffractions, as everyone calls you all, it's
right.
like amazing because it just feels like you do it all and you get it all done. And where I'm watching the ballet, the opera from the audience, and I know behind the curtain shit's on fire and
Yeah,
everyone's
yeah, yeah,
running around and
exactly.
it's chaos,
Right.
but you make it look so seamless. Kelly, she does this Vegas show, this
Yeah.
this tiny
Yeah.
thing that
Yeah. But that
that's
was the other, like that was
whatever,
happening.
and you're doing Godzilla, and the kids are thriving and doing so well, and they're so like balanced and intellectual and just so engaging. Like it's really awesome to see from over here. Like I said, I'm watching the symphony
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Everything
ballet,
in
and
front. Yeah.
everything
But you're
looks
right.
amazing, but
Behind the curtain, it's a mess.
I
But there's
know
the other
it's
thing.
not
It's like,
easy. I
yeah,
do know it's not easy, but you do make it look effortless, the two of you, and just having the privilege of being in your home for a small
oh,
moment. Just it's really amazing to see. So
thank you.
I'm inspired by you all.
Thank you. And it was, the Hell's the Awakening in Vegas and this were happening at the same time. I left
Right.
that to go to the premiere. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like it was all happening at once. And it was just this
Yes.
like, oh my God, Jesus Christ, when does it stop?
Right. Exactly. And this is
High
why
class
I say
problems, but
what,
oh
but
my God, what's
still
happening?
it's amazing. And like, that's why I was saying, and it's not like, and I know the kids aren't like 2 and 3 years old, but they're still in need of like
Oh
some
yeah.
watering and love and attention.
Yeah.
And they're not that old where they're, off
But like,
away. So you
I
all
think we,
really balance a lot.
yeah, I think like it was like the second or third week in the writer's room, Henry's bearded dragon died.
Oh,
And it kills me that I wasn't here for that.
oh,
And I couldn't believe it. While it happens while I'm gone, like it's just the worst. But I mean, our kids are great and super resilient, and the bonus is then we get to take them to see these amazing things, and sort
yes.
of I think the feeling is like, you know, um, hard work innately comes with sacrifice, but
Hmm.
like this is what it's for. And like, look at this thing that you can
Hmm.
make. So it was cool. It was a crazy year, and I'm ready for a quiet year where nothing happens.
Uh, unlikely.
Yeah,
Not from the
yeah,
diffractions.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true. But
I mean,
it's
and
good.
also now that I know Kelly Sue a lot better, because we really spent a lot of time together in these last several, collaborative months, I feel like she just can't help herself. Like
I
there'll be
think that's
something
fair.
going on. She can't help herself.
Yeah,
I mean, she's got a lot going on.
she does all the time. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's you creatives. You just can't stop creating. It's
yeah.
like oozing out, which is a
Um,
wonderful problem for all of us because we get to benefit from it. So
oh,
thank you.
yeah, yeah. Well, our pleasure, our exhausted pleasure.
Oh my goodness. Well, As always, it's fantastic to catch up with you. This is why I devised a podcast to talk to the people I like.
It's crazy that it's been an hour went right by. It always does.
It always does. It always does.
You're the best, Mimi. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. And again, it was such a pleasure to see you all in person. And
so great
hopefully we'll catch up again soon, whether it's on the podcast or off. But say hello to the whole family. And congratulations again on Monarch Legacy of Monsters. Everyone can catch that on Apple Plus. And Adventurement's coming back as well. So make sure you pick that up. And just can't wait to see what's next. I actually love that Apple doesn't do the full, like we actually have to wait a little bit, right? Like it's a little bit, you get a little taste of a little balance in life. So I kind of like that, to be honest.
It's I appreciate it, you know.
All right, we'll talk soon.
Alrighty.
That's all for today's episode. Thanks for listening to the Sifu Mimi Chan Show. Please subscribe and rate my podcast on your platform of choice and leave a review. You can become a patron of the show at patreon.com/SifuMimiChan to help keep this podcast going. Follow me and interact on social media at Sifu Mimi Chan on Instagram or Facebook.